Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Crystal Lee's Chance channel. I'm Crystal Lee and welcome to another Chancer Chat. Chancer Chats is when we take certain life questions or topics and try to shift our mindset to a different mindset that helps us bridge the gap from the life that we have now to get to the life that we want. And on this Chancer Chat, we're talking about how Captain Marvel taught me one of the biggest lessons of my life that helped me change my perspective on my life and allow me to really live without limitations. So with that being said, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your water, because we're going to be sitting down, getting cozy, and talking about life lessons from the MCU. Now, if you clicked on this video because it had Captain Marvel in the title, let me just get this clear. I am an MCU stan. I'm not a comic book stan, so just leave me alone at that, but I love the MCU, and the MCU has been an integral part of my life because I can pinpoint a time that me and my friends went to go see one of the many movies in the MCU of phase 1, 2, and 3, and me taking lessons from it through everyone's character development, through life impacting shit that went on in those movies. And I just love them. However, it wasn't until Captain Marvel came out that I learned one of the big lessons in my life. Now, I want to say, spoilers, because Captain Marvel came out in 2019, but in case you are somebody who is doing the MCU marathon and you're trying to catch up on it, and you think this is a video that's going to unlock some detail of that movie, it's not, but I will be going over the movie, so if you haven't seen it, maybe click off now and come back later, but there will be spoilers, and I'm going to start by telling you the plot of the movie. Because it helps with me telling you the lesson that I've learned from the movie. And if you don't want to see the movie, the plot synopsis is for the people who don't want to see it but want to figure out what the hell the lesson was from the movie. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. The main character's name is Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. She begins the movie waking up in a panic from a nightmare that she has, being attacked by a species called Skrulls. She is a part of a soldier team. She is part of a team called the Kree who live on Hala, and Skrulls just happen to be their enemy that they're trying to fight. So she confides in her friend / mentor on Hala, who's also Kree, leader of the Kree, of her dream, and he assures her not to worry about it, not to think about it too much. Just remember your training, because that nightmare is limiting you. That nightmare is limiting you from being a really good soldier. And all the teachings that we have taught you on Hala is all you need to know. During a rescue mission, Carol Danvers was kidnapped by the Skrulls, and they somehow hoisted her onto the ship and in a machine that taps into her subconscious, and they brought up a lot of memories. She awakes in that machine and she doesn't really remember those memories. She's looking at them, but she's like, what the fuck is this? So she ends up actually escaping from the Skrulls captive. She ended up escaping from the Skrulls, captiveness ship. She ends up escaping from the Skrulls ship, but crash landed on Earth, where she realizes from investigating the memories that the Skrulls have brought up that she had a life on Earth. It was through finding her friend, her best friend at the time when she was on Earth, that she found out who she really was. A badass woman who fought to help other people. She was a fighter who didn't really care what anybody thought of her or the limitations anyone put on her. She did what she thought needed to be done. She led with her heart. Always. She led with her heart and her head. She didn't just follow orders. And then flashback to the rest of the movie where, she becomes this powerful ass bitch who saves Skrulls and, defeats Kree. Spoiler over. But let me tell you, while watching that, my inner child was just in awe, amazed. She was moved. She felt like this movie was talking to her specifically. My inner child felt so seen and so heard because she felt like she was Carol. I say she, my inner child, but it's really me. But it'll be used interchangeably. I was always told at a young age that I was too sensitive or too loud, too masculine, too strong, too smart, too much for anyone to handle. And I felt like, when I was little, I felt like I was being controlled. That my natural urges, my natural way of being just wasn't wasn't accepted or just wasn't good. And when it came to Carol, the friend that she confided in didn't want to help her. Those things that he limited her from doing or telling her what to do just made her what he needed her to be, which was a source to get what the Kree wanted, which to rule over their planet, Hala. Anyway, I said spoilers was over, but I wasn't over. I'm sorry. This movie confirmed to me, well, showed and confirmed to me that it really is about who you surround yourself with, because her mentor slash friend on Hala wasn't really for her. He was just using her to get to get what he wanted and making her into what he needed. But her friend, who she didn't see for 5 years because she was capped, but she was like, on the planet being like, brainwashed, without a doubt, still reminded her, 5 years after, reminded her who she was and was able to help Carol see that she has always been that girl. And she was always and will always be that girl. What her friend reminded her of is, even though she was in this big crash that led her into a huge explosion and then kidnapped by the Kree, not really the Skrulls. I mean, she was kidnapped by the Skrulls like after. She was like double napped. Hashtag double homicide. Just kidding. No. Even though 5 years passed and she didn't know who she was from this big event that happened, she was still the person she was on Earth, on Hala, and it was hard for the Kree to control her. Hope this is making sense. But these are all things that I've learned in my healing and my spiritual journey. And the movie just kind of confirmed it, that you will always be who you are meant to be, no matter what happens to you. There will be obstacles and limitations, but, at the end of the day, you are who you are. One of my biggest lessons from Captain Marvel came at the end of the movie. Carol Danvers happened to absorb the energy from an explosion of a Lightspeed engine that had energy from an Infinity Stone called the Tesseract. Please go look that up, because if I go through the whole of explaining each part of that to you, it will be a long video. During a crash, Carol Danvers absorbed energy from this Lightspeed engine that harvests energy from an Infinity Stone called the Tesseract. It's a really, really, really strong energy. She absorbed it. As a human being, she absorbed it. So the Kree found her and took her to Hala. And they put a piece of technology on her neck to control her powers that she got from that explosion that she absorbed. During her training on Hala, they would always tell her to control it. They would always try to make her control it or control it for her. And during her realization of who she was 5 years ago before being taken by the Kree and who she is now, she's realized how powerful she is. And even though she realized that Kree took her from Earth again when they found her back on Earth, took her to Hala and tried to brainwash her again, but this time, knowing who she was before the Kree happened, before the explosion happened, she was trying to fight them from brainwashing her again. She was literally using all the powers that she had to try to fight them, and they kept using that to stop her. And then she asked, because they were saying to her, we made you, we made you who you are. We gave you these powers. You are nothing without us. You are nothing but a simple, limited human being without us and without the power that we gave you. They didn't give it to her, like, obviously, but you know what I mean. And she said no, because there were memories of her being little and falling and getting into crashes, and when she was in the Air Force training, how she would fall and hurt herself. But every single time that she would scrape a knee, she would crash into something on her skateboard or bike, or even in the military, she still got up. So she's always been a fighter, powers or no powers. But in that moment of the Kree telling her again that she is nothing, she said, you're right. I am a human being, but I have these powers, and I've been limited with these powers because of this technology. So, and she says, my favorite quote of the whole movie, I have been fighting with one hand behind my back this entire time. What happens if I am finally set free? And with that, she breaks a piece of technology that has been limiting her for like the past 5 years, and she literally goes apeshit on the whole planet. Like she just goes apeshit, and she saves a lot of people. It's really great. It's really cool. But for some reason, And that quote like always makes me tear up for some reason because it's so powerful, right? It's so extremely powerful. Like, what happens when she finally stops limiting herself and she fully like steps into her power? Literally destroyed everybody. Everyone was destroyed except for the good people, but she destroyed the bad people. I tell you, I love talking about Marvel. No matter what anyone brings it up, I'm there for the chit chat. If it's about comic books, I'm there to learn because I haven't read them, but I love chit chatting about this. And I remember one time we were out for lunch on a company lunch outing. And that movie got brought up, and one guy that I worked with, he said, I don't get it. He said, I don't get how the whole movie she didn't know that she had powers and all of a sudden she can use them really, really, really well. And for some reason, I like knew the answer to that because I was just like, well, the moment you give yourself permission to be all that you are, it's kind of like riding a bike. To be very esoteric and very spiritual, woo-woo, universe, like you have all the powers, all the capabilities that you need in this world to really step fully into your purpose, to be fully powerful with what you want to do for yourself in your life. You have all of that. It's through conditioning and stereotypes and limited learnings and limiting beliefs that you limit yourself. You put that own piece of technology on your neck that stops you from really stepping into your power. For Carol Danvers, yes, she was a human being who happened to absorb a really strong energy, but I believe that she wouldn't have been able to absorb that strong energy if she was not a strong human being. If she didn't hold that strength to really get through absorbing energy from an infinity stone. Look it up. So superhuman powers aside, even though I've used her as an example this whole time, superhuman powers aside, it is the same with basic humans. We have superpowers of our own, and it may not be having a photon blast out of our hands or eyes, but it's pretty damn powerful when you put it into work, when you put it into action. Your talent, your knowledge, your way of thinking, your intelligence, your way of behaving, your communication, your genetic makeup itself is your superpower because it makes you who you are. It makes you who you are. And allowing yourself to see who you are and then to be who you are in this world is so fulfilling and rewarding and powerful. I don't know why I'm singing. I'm about to lead y'all into worship. No, I'm kidding. I can talk about stepping into your power as much as I want, right? I can fill your ears and heart up with this inspirational talk of just step into your power. Be who you are. Notice who you are and step into your power. Don't let anyone limit you. I can say that. I can do that. But how, right? It's always how. Because people love to give you inspirational talks but never tell you how to really do it. And so here are some tips that I want to share with you to help you fully step into your power and stop limiting yourself. What has helped me step into my power and continuously do it, because there's layers to this shit, is to recall the limiting advice that I have gotten in my life. Things that I've been scolded about not doing. Because for Carol Danvers, back to her, she was told to focus on what you were taught. Don't lead with your head. But essentially that's who she is, and it has paid off for her every single time before the Kree got into her. So I started to recall the limiting beliefs that I was given, the scolding that I went through and told not to do, that limited me. I did a video talking more about the detail of recognizing those things. It's called Are You Becoming or Are You Just Recognizing? You can go check that out, but I'm going to briefly go over it here, but that's just a more detailed video. But pinpoint the advice that really wasn't helpful and very limiting, that made you feel less than, that made you feel unworthy, that made you feel like weak and not strong. That's the advice that people would give to limit you, not always on purpose. It's only because people love giving advice that help them to other people, but essentially they limited themselves, and so they're limiting other people. People do it on purpose or subconsciously, but either way it's done, and you should be aware that it was done to you. That it happened to you, it was given to you, and it's happened to be something that you now function or behave with, that limiting belief or limiting advice. Sometimes the advice is helpful, right? Like if you're like physically hurting yourself, yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like advice that's saying, don't shoot for the stars. Like, like advice like that. Oh, don't go too far this way. Don't go too far that way. Don't do this thing that makes you happy because it only ends in tears. Like stuff like that. Like stuff that's saying, oh, don't spend your money on this. Don't do that job. Don't do this job. Focus on this very strict thing here. Like stuff like that I'm telling you to go pinpoint and be like, that actually is not the advice that I want. I'm going to let it go because it does not serve me anymore. Like that kind of stuff. The second thing that I did to step more into my power and to stop limiting myself, that I stopped fighting with one hand behind my back, was to remember what makes me happy. I reflected on moments where I felt happiest and what I was doing at that moment. Now, happiest isn't a constant, but and to search for it constantly will make you unhappy. But I reflect on times I felt tremendous joy in what I was doing. And when I was younger, it was painting, it was being creative, it was singing, it was writing songs, it was doing videos, bro. I always videotaped something. I was always videotaping something or saying something into a video, and it always made me happy. Talking makes me happy. That's why doing this is kind of like really fun for me because I get to talk. Do more things like that. Like I gave you an example of me, but do more things like that because that is where your superpower lies. Your superpower is as simple as feeling good. Siri, play Good as Hell by Lizzo. I don't have Siri, but play that song. Play that song because that song just came into my head while doing this. 3. We're almost there. We're almost done. Reflect on the people around you and if they're encouraging you or limiting you. This can be a very rude awakening for some people because once that glass is broken and you realize that the people around you aren't really rooting for you the way you thought and where you could be without limitations that these people are putting on you, it's a little sad. Sad because you figured, okay, well, they really have not been good for me, and it's sad. Like, I don't know what else to say because personally, I've lost friends. I've stopped being friends with a lot of people because they were a limitation, and I don't mean to always be around people to get further in life. You don't have to use people to further yourself in life. But just like I said about reflecting on things that make you feel joy, reflect on people who make you feel joy when you're with them. Joy is an amazing vibration that I think everyone should vibe at. And again, not chasing it because chasing it leads to like unhappiness. I'm just saying if there are people who you are around who just makes you feel loved and happy and like you can fly, and that's so cheesy, but like if they make you feel like you can do anything, those are the people you want to stay with. Those are the people that you want to just stay with. And I don't mean all the time. I just mean like just love them and just be with them. Oh my God, I'm getting really cheesy. Oh my God. Oh, I'm getting like teary. Be around those people who bring you joy, just like your activities that reveal your superpower bring you joy. And for the people who you realize that you're around and they make you feel a little bit low, a little lackluster in life, a little powerless, a little unworthy, first off, know that no one can make you feel that way without your permission, but also your environment can impact you in that way as well if you are very sensitive to that type of thing. If you're a strong ass person who doesn't really change with who you are around you, okay, cool, but sometimes it's kind of like show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future or whatever, or show me the people you hang out with and I'll show you your future. I'm not saying cut off all friends who aren't helping you get further. I'm just saying notice who's around you and who's really there for you or who's limiting you because they've limited themselves. And also reflect on yourself to see if you've been the right person too, right? Because it's not just external, you have to look internal about these things. Like, are you also being the limiting belief in yourself? The last thing that I have learned, and again, it goes back to the biggest lesson, is allow yourself to be limitless. It is a curiosity of being limitless that Carol had that let her finally break that technology that limited her. It's the curiosity of seeing what else you can do. It's the curiosity of seeing what life has for you if you just go for it. And it's scary. Fear will always be there, but I always say, do not let it be in the driver's seat. Put that shit in the back. Tell it to shut up. Give yourself permission to be all that you are. And to give yourself permission, I mean, hey, I'm gonna find the courage to make a video talking about something that I'm very passionate about. That is your curiosity. That is your limitless activity for the day. It's about picking up the pen and writing that poem that maybe you were afraid to do, or doing that piece of artwork, talking to that person, reaching out to that person, something that you've been afraid of for so long that has pretty much made you feel stuck. Do that. I just mean give yourself permission to do something that makes you feel joy. And I know that's so simple because as I say it, I'm just like, can we give them anything else? Can we give them another way of doing it? Can we give them more advice on that? And it's not. At the end of the day, advice from other people aside, external factors aside, you may be the only one limiting you. And to bring it back to my old girl, Captain Marvel, she had that technology on her neck for 5 years. And it was just her curiosity of what happens when she takes it off that led her to just literally flick that shit off. They didn't have it embedded in her body where she had to cut it out. She just flicked it off, as simple as flicking it off her neck. That led her to be the limitless badass that she was in that movie and for other movies to come. Hopefully, come on, Marvel. Give me a Captain Marvel too. Now. But you see how simple that was? Obviously it's a fictional movie, but anything can minister to you, right? Anything can give you a lesson, which is what I got from this. It was easy as being curious enough to flick it off, and she just flicked it off. I hope you enjoyed this Chancer Chat. I've definitely enjoyed typing it up and talking about it, and I'm really passionate about it. Comment down below if anything resonated with you, and also let me know who your favorite superhero is, MCU or not, and then let me know what you think your superpower is. I think we all have our own superpowers, as you know from this chat, and when you can unlock your power and then give yourself permission to fully step into it without limiting yourself or without anyone else limiting you, it gives you a chance at a powerful life, whatever that means to you, and that's fucking beautiful. Until next time, see you in the next one. Bye!